Happy solstice, everyone. Many greetings. Let us know you're here in the comments if you want to. Say hello. So today I'd like to do two things. One is to do a little meditation ritual around this day, which is quite extraordinary, and talk a little bit about it and what that might mean for us as a world and what that might mean for you as an individual. So talk about the solstice, do a meditation about that, and then I want to talk about an exciting New Year's Eve event that we will be having. So I'll be doing both those things this morning. This morning where I am in California. Some people saying hi. Denmark. I love it when we reach out across the world. And Findhorn. Oh, I was there in 2016 with my group when we were doing pilgrimage to the Outer Hebrides. Chud pilgrimage. Haha, Poland. So this is an important day. First of all, it's the beginning of winter. It's also the actual New Year, because now the days go from getting shorter to getting longer. So we're in that moment where we're really far from the sun. The days are short, at least for most of us, and dark. So it's the time to light some candles, and I actually did that. I don't know if you can see, but behind me there's some candles. And at home, when I'm in my house in Colorado, I usually light candles all over the house. Today, and kind of invite the light back. And so most cultures, indigenous cultures around the world, had some sort of ceremony on this day. Maybe it's a sun dance, maybe it's an alignment with ancient stone circles and arrangements so that the light hits in a certain way. But there's some sort of moment of asking the light to come back and welcoming it back. So let's take just a moment as we begin our time together and breathe. And just take a moment to feel this day. Feel what's happening in the sky. On our earth. And it's not only the winter solstice, which is in itself a very important marker in the year, but this is also a really remarkable moment because Jupiter and Saturn are going to appear to be together, like one star, tonight in our early evening night sky. Fairly low to the horizon, at least where I am. And so that's an amazing thing. Some people are saying this is like the Christmas star. And what's actually happening astrologically, I'm not an astrologer, so I can't go into this in great depths, but what I understand is that this hasn't happened since 1623. And that it is a specific change that hasn't happened, this shift, for 200 years. And that's the shift from the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in earth signs to Jupiter and Saturn in air signs. And it's also the beginning of a whole new era. And so this is officially, according to some people, the beginning of what's known as the Age of Aquarius, which you might remember from the 60s. It's a big event. And so what we know about the Age of Aquarius is it's going to be a time of awareness of collective consciousness, expanding boundaries that have been rigid into a sort of a more global perspective, really. And I think we're really being called to that now because of global warming, because of COVID. We see how global we are. Whether we like it or not, we're all really connected in ways that really we weren't in the past, because you couldn't travel so quickly. And so viruses didn't travel so quickly either. They were more localized. And so that's sort of the negative side of it. But the positive side is we can be more in communication, and that's a wonderful thing that we have people from all over the world, for example, doing this. This is a new thing. You couldn't always do that. Somebody, Edward from Halifax, hello. New York, Holland, Germany, Abu Dhabi. Wow. Good old Colorado. Another from Poland, Germany. Oh, wonderful. I'm not going to say them all because you can see them. Uruguay. Wow. Mallorca. Wow, this is wonderful. So what's happening now is, in this 200-year cycle, there's a shift from this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Earth to Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in air. And so I did a little research on this about what it's going to mean. And essentially, Jupiter and Saturn are the slowest and furthest away planets available to the human eye to see. And so then you could see them sort of as the shorthand on the clock. They move more slowly than the other planets do. And so they're really different. So Jupiter is the expander. It's sort of evulsiveness. It's often sort of moving into larger communities, larger groups, bigger ideas. It's a feeling of expansion and development. And Saturn is the discipliner. It's the sort of it's the energy that really makes us work. And sometimes it brings up old things that we have to work through. But it can be rigid and it can be hard, the Saturn cycle. But it's also important because we need, what Saturn brings us is that kind of structure and holding to certain things. Whereas Jupiter's like, ah. So Jupiter is expansion, growth, and coherence, and then Saturn is limitation, structure, and containment. Sometimes people say Saturn is the cruel taskmaster, but in any case, they're very different, and they're conjunct. They're coming together, and I think it's going to be amazing. We're going to be at the beach in Encinitas tonight, doing a practice at sunset, and then waiting for this star of Christmas to appear in the sky. And so those two energies of Saturn and Jupiter are coming together and moving from this air, moving from the earth signs into the air signs in this next 200 years. So the Earth period that we're exiting from is one that focuses on materialism, hierarchies, resource acquisition, territory control, empire stabilization. And so you can see this, that when it occurred previously was at the time of the late Roman Empire, the High Middle Ages, and the Industrial Capitalization Revolution. So air periods, by contrast, are about the renovation of hierarchy, sort of opening them up, looking at them again, decentralization, work locally, think globally. A lot of people are trying to eat that way, to eat more locally while they're working globally. It's possible where I live now, in California. Shifting orders, rapid translation, like with the internet, mass mobility, trade networks, and rampant spirituality. So it's a bursting forth of spirituality. And so examples of that, historically, of this type of conjunction happened at the time of the rise and fall of Alexander the Great's empire, which was extremely expansive. If you remember, he was in India from Greece, overland, remember, and not by boat and not by plane. So that led to an expansion of the Greek city-states and the Greek-speaking Hellenistic world. And that was between 383 and 185. And then the fall of the Roman Empire was also an air period, the 400 to 600 Christian era. And then the division of the Mongol Empire after Genghis Khan's death, and the Black Plague's destabilization effect on feudalism in Europe was from 1206 to 1405. So that was another air period. So thematically, air periods tend to foster information ages that focus on intellectual and immaterial and ideological events. And so people have sort of projected or wondered or had thoughts about what this might lead to. And it could be a move from key social conflicts over physical territory to struggle in the psychological and ideological realms. So because earth is the physical, and so then air is more ideological and psychological. And so the game that the world is engaged in is more up in the air and less on the earth than it has been. It could also be radical technology, radical technological advancement. And so this is a World Wide Web itself entering its Saturn return. So the web itself is around that period of Saturn return, 28, 30 years old. And that's a difficult kind of coming of age time. And we've already seen this in what happened with political influence from Russia in our election that happened with Facebook and so on. That there's a sort of growing up in terms of the internet and needing to realize it's not just an idealistic, wonderful thing, but that there can be problems with it. And so we have issues of surveillance. The big thing that I saw came out yesterday about the way that the Russians entered into so many companies and systems in the government, hacked them. That type of thing we'll see more of. So there's sort of war in space in a way, not space like planet type space, but in the etheric realm of the internet. And that seems very likely because it's more and more what we depend on and where everything's happening, including this right now. So these are some of the shifts that we'll see in this era. So that's just general ideas about that. What I'd like to do now is for us to do our own little meditation, or our own big meditation on the solstice. And so I invite you to close your eyes and become aware of your breath. Feel the sun beginning to affect the earth in a different way. The sun has been more and more distant. Or that's how it appears to us. Actually, we've been more and more distant from it. And now we begin to feel that turning back of the earth to move closer to the sun. And take a moment to let go of the past year, of your struggles. I think it's been a hard year for everyone with the fear of this disease being rampant, and also the loss of income for many of us, the loss of each other, of not being able to actually be together, not be together at Tara Mandala, for example. So it's been a time of isolation and financial crisis for many, difficult times. And knowing people who have had COVID, perhaps some of you have had it yourselves, or you have a fear of getting it, or it's affected your community. You just take a moment now to acknowledge all of those beings who lost their lives in this time. Over 300,000 in this country alone. And that move from 200 to 300,000 happened so fast. So let's feel all those beings in the bardo from these more recent deaths. Send them light, send them awareness and advice to go toward the light. Love and compassion to them, to the deceased and all of their loved ones who are grieving now. And also we're in a profound shift in government in this country. This is a transition time in our government. It's really taking place around this winter solstice time. And we're seeing in terms of the choices that Biden is making, a more diverse, expansive, world-thinking group of people that would be very attuned to how this age of Aquarius is being defined as a time of awareness of collective benefit, collective growth, rather than focusing on the individual countries or individual person, more expansive. Jupiter and Saturn in air. So feeling support for this new administration. May it benefit all beings. May it really address the climate change crisis. And also this is a time for you personally to set intentions for this next cycle, this next 200-year cycle, and this next solar cycle, next year. So letting go of the past year, allow yourself to feel the sun on your face, going toward the light. With gratitude for the darkness and the richness of that time, turning toward the next year. And take a moment and set some personal intentions for this coming time. What are your personal aspirations? You have pen and paper available. You could jot down some of your aspirations for the coming year. Otherwise, you can just make a mental note, stay in the meditation. Make some aspirations at the level of the collective, of the world. And also personal. What are you aspiring to in your personal life? And you can jot that down too, or just hold it in your mind. Personal aspirations. One of my aspirations is to connect more with you, to connect more on the web, in the ethers. I can feel all your presence, and it is really a kind of community that we can have now. Really quite amazing. So I aspire to many meetings and meditations in this etheric realm with a net of love and compassion that we form around this delicate, precious planet that's sustaining life, supporting her, healing her. And let's also bring in the wisdom beings. The wisdom beings who aren't in this dimension, that aren't in the dimension of the 5 elements and earth, but are in a dimension of luminosity, a higher frequency, who are beaming their blessing always present. But we need to allow ourselves to be open to it. So these are the wisdom beings who have reached enlightenment and are continuing to work for the benefit of beings. And this is not only Buddhist beings, but I would mention Christ as well. Jesus Christ, who is still beaming his love and compassion onto the earth, as well as Tara, Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha, all those beings, Yeshitsogya, Guru Rinpoche, and feel their energy coming into you. Expanding your heart, expanding your luminosity, opening your third eye, and allowing you to become a body of light, a luminous being, benefiting all beings. Even though at a relative level we are experiencing shifts all the time, things are constantly changing, and this is a specific, quite remarkable astronomical and astrological event today, but this happens to be happening right on winter solstice. There's also our true nature, which is not changing, which is unconditioned, unborn, and unceasing. That is luminous and empty, open, free. It's always present. So let's take a moment and become aware of that absolute level of our true condition. And that's always a place we can shift to be aware of that. That absolute level. And feel how that's always present. Just have to shift our awareness to it. Out of the limited, conditioned consciousness into the unconditioned. It's just as much part of us as the conditioned. Just a matter of where we put our focus. And coming back into your body, to an awareness of your body. In time and space, at the moment of winter solstice. Feeling the shift happening. Feeling this remarkable conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, creating a very bright star, significantly bright. It's Saturn and Jupiter together. Feeling that energy. And then as we open our eyes again, dedicating the merit of this meditation, to benefit all beings everywhere. Not only human beings, all beings. And the Mother Earth as a being. May our practice benefit her as well as all of her children. Two-legged, four-legged, creepy crawly ones, and those that fly, the wings. May we be of benefit. May our lives be of benefit. Just looking at the comments. Italy, Austria, Germany, UK. So nice. And someone from my home state of New Hampshire. So we're still in this day. Those in Europe are toward the end of their day now. We're still in it. We'll be meeting on the beach here in Encinitas to do Prajnaparamita with the setting sun and then watch that star rise. And thinking of you, of everybody. So I wanted to also take some time today to talk about an event that we are doing on New Year's Eve day. So that's December 31st. And I realized a while ago, we can't go to any parties, we can't even go to group meditation or anything unless it's like what we do here on the beach. So why don't we have a big international gathering? And so we're doing it. We're doing a New Year's Eve gala that will begin at 11 in the morning Pacific time, which is 8 p.m. in Europe. And if you're further in that direction, toward the east, it'll be getting closer and closer to midnight when we begin. And so what we're going to do is a meditation also, changing of the year. And we'll do a little more ceremony. I'd like you to bring to that event 3 candles, and we'll use those in our ceremony. So we'll each have 3 candles. You can just get little tea lights or something like that. I just get a message about there's a noise. I think that's my fire. Does it bother you? No, it's a fire that I have going. That's what you're hearing. So, yeah, you can just go with that. And thank you, whoever said, Katya, imagine the noise as flowing water. Yeah. So, New Year's Eve, we're going to begin with this ritual, a ceremony, and letting go of the old year, and then inviting in the new year, and a meditation, and if it all beings. And then we're going to have a combination of music, dance, and auction. And there will be certain things that, not exactly an auction, but more like things that you can offer to, and then some auction items. And I'll just give you a little highlight of what might be available, what will be available. Oh, it's really nice seeing you all. Portugal, wow. So we're going to have gows, and Lori, I don't know if you can put into the chat an image. I have one, but anyway, a gow is like a locket, and this one is only about that big. About that big, maybe 3/4 of an inch long, and it looks kind of like a bullet. And inside this particular gow will be the text from a practice which I received in a pure vision from Machig Labdrön in 2006. I was in retreat in my cabin at Mandala, and I was practicing in the dark, and I had a vision of Machig Labdrön. At the New Year's Eve event, I'll go into more depth about what that vision was exactly. It was a very clear vision. She came to me and she gave me a practice, which I wrote down at the time, and then I kept it. And so that was 2006. Part of what she told me at that time was I had to find her lineage, and I had to do it quickly because things were going to change. And in fact, we went to Tibet, and we went to her place the following spring, and things did change. It was right after that the protests happened in Tibet around the Olympics, and where everything shut down in Tibet and became much more restricted for the Tibetans and so on. So that vision that I had was partly those instructions to gather her lineage and reestablish it, which is what my focus has been. And then also this practice. And so this gow, we've written the practice out in very small letters, and then we, in sort of a horizontal format, and then paint that with blessed saffron water, and then roll it into a little scroll, glue it closed, and then touch the top with red so that you know which side should be up, and then that's placed inside this gow, and then you wear it. And so the wearing of it is a direct blessing from Machig. And so those gows will be available on New Year's Eve night for a donation. And so that's one of the things. Another thing is there's some art paintings that I've done in the last year, and we are making very high quality reproductions, art level reproductions, and they will be numbered and signed by me, and so you'll be able to get those. One of them is the Mandala dream painting that I did after my dream on January 1st, 2000, where I was leading a red horse through a river. We were walking in the river, and I was looking for a place to put down a mandala. like a big physical mandala next to the river. And I did actually find a place to put down that mandala. So I did a drawing of that dream. And then there's another one called Lovers, of this sort of etheric lovers floating in the grass with a mandala behind them. And then there's also one of the beach here, sunset, watercolor. So those will be available. And some other items, there'll be an amazing Guru Rinpoche statue that Lama Tsultrim is filling. He's actually carving the Sokshing, which is this spine that goes in the center of the statue inside, because the statue you can open up and then put this inside. It's all painted with mantras, and then relics are put around that. And then the lotus at the bottom is filled with certain things. So that statue, which is, pretty big, that will be a live auction. So we'll be doing things like that. This is a benefit for Tara Mandala. Two things, essentially. One is we need to redo our septic system. If we don't redo it, the county will shut us down, and that's between $100,000 and $150,000. And then also just a general fund for Tara Mandala, sort of surviving and transiting this epic COVID journey that we've all been on. So supporting Tara Mandala through that. So this is a benefit, and we're excited. And I haven't told you the most exciting part yet, which is there's going to be different musicians performing all evening. Oh, and we're going to invite you to come dressed up in your party clothes. And we're going to be sending out recipes for mocktails and cocktails according to the 5 Buddha families, and snacks as well that you can prepare. And of course, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to dress up or make a mocktail or a cocktail, but it's just kind of a fun idea. And so, so the musicians, David Premal and Mitten, who you probably know of them. She sings an amazing Tara mantra. David Premal and Mitten, that's her partner. They're going to perform, as well as Shiva Ray will be leading some dancing. Peter Rowan, who's a Grammy winner and 6 times Grammy nominated musician. He's known as a bluegrass singer. I actually met him in a grocery store in 1972 in Concord, Massachusetts. And he's been a friend ever since. And he's a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner. And so he did an album called Dharma Blues. And I've asked him to sing some songs from that, which I love. There's one called Wisdom Woman about Prajnaparamita. And another one that has the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra in it, but it's English mainly, is his song. I've asked KD, Krishnadas, he's going to be there, and I've asked him if he'll sing Jesus on the Main Line. He does an amazing rendition of that song. And our beloved Eric Champa, who, if any of you have ever been to a Drupchen, you've heard him sing, sang at my birthday party, and he dharmatizes traditional songs. So he's going to do some of his dharmatized song. And CC White, who is a soul kirtan singer, who was in our symposium in the spring, amazing performer from Los Angeles. And also Lori Amideo, who actually is part of Tara Mandala and an amazing singer, amazing, talented singer. She'll be performing. And Carla Jackson Brewer, who's one of the authorized teachers, she'll be singing a song. And Lizzie Hoke, who used to live at Mandala many years ago, and she sings this song that Dave used to call the old war horse, because every time we'd have some sort of gathering or ceremony, he was like, okay, Lizzie, sing that song. And it's about Mandala. I mean, it's kind of, it can be thought of to be about Mandala. So we'll be doing all that and be together in this time. So it's 11 to 2, and you will register. I think Lori's putting it. Yeah, I see it here in the scroll. So it's pinned. It's a pinned comment, and you sign up for it. There's a $25 contribution to attend the party as part of your offering to the benefit, and it's also going to be your ticket for a drawing, and so we'll have some wonderful prizes for the raffle. And so we opened this yesterday. Already quite a lot of people are coming, so we like to build it up to be really big. And so tell your friends. Nobody has anywhere to go now. So we can send things, international shipping for these objects. We're going to work that out. So New Year's Eve, it's not the 1st of January, it's the December 31st day. And so some of you may actually experience the shift into the new year during the ceremony. And maybe we can mark that as we go through time zones. And that starts to happen around the globe. So the Australians will probably be in it already in the new year before we begin. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about that and tell you also, and just spend a little time with you today on this very special solstice. And I think it's so important to mark these actual days that are significant in terms of the lunar cycle or the solar cycle, to be more in touch with the cycles that are going on around us, because we live on this calendar, the Gregorian calendar, which is solar, and we have these weeks that are completely disconnected from the moon, even though there actually are their moon times, that 28 to 30 day cycle is lunar, but we usually don't know where the moon is and so on. So marking equinoxes and solstices is a wonderful thing to do. And so I'm happy that we had this little time together today. And maybe I could answer some questions if there are any questions. Lobsang Dakpa, Tashidale. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to be together. I'm trying to figure out what my outfit will be. I think we're going to try out some of the cocktails here. We have to make sure they're good. And maybe some snacks before we start. So I'm not seeing any questions coming up, but I'll just look on my phone here for a minute, see. Yeah, if you can see any questions. I don't see any questions. So nice to be with you all today. Sorry if there was any disturbance with the sound. I think it was the fire. Also, the garbage truck came by. Yeah, we still have garbage. Um, can't wait to bring in the new year with our community. I know. You know, that's one of those hidden benefits with the whole COVID thing is that these things that we would have felt like, oh, we have to be in person with somebody or we can't celebrate or there weren't any online events to go to. Now, since we have to be online, that we're creating these online events. And so those of us who maybe couldn't have been together normally are going to be together. And we'll have the chat open. So you can also, if you see, oh, I know so-and-so from that retreat or whatever, you'll be able to do some private chatting to people. Yeah, so that's not so long from now, about 9 or 10 days. Yeah, Lori just wrote that we'll be sharing these recipes. Once you register, in a few days after we try them out, we'll send you recipes. And also mocktails, if you don't drink alcohol. One of the things that I've been drinking lately as a non-alcoholic drink is shrubs. Do you know what they are? I didn't know what they were until my daughter came to visit me. They're made with flavored vinegar, and at our farmer's market here, there's somebody that sells shrubs. So she infuses vinegar with, say, blueberries, watermelon, and passion fruit or something like that. And then you put a little of that vinegar, and then you put bubbly water and maybe a little sprig of rosemary or thyme, or decorate it in some way, and ice if you like that, and then you drink that, and that's called a shrub. Which is funny because my daughter's name is Sherub, and sometimes people call her Shrub. So she bought some shrub, and she's been making shrubs too. So that'll be one of our mocktails, and so this will be fun. Greetings from Cleveland. Yeah, it'll be about 3 hours, and people will be tuning in. The musicians will kind of go between auction items and musical offerings, and maybe some talking in between. Oh, you're welcome for the Solstice gathering. Bring your godchild. Yeah. It's going to be great music, so you don't have to be a Buddhist or Mandala person to come to this. There'll be really great music. I mean, really amazing musicians that are performing. KD Krishnadas was also a Grammy nominee, and of course Shiva is a very famous yogini who leads dance and trance dance and so on. And yeah, so it'll be fun. Okay. I don't want to say goodbye to you, but I think it's time. Lots of love. We'll leave this chat open maybe a little bit. Although I think, yeah, we want to... Oh, you're welcome. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's really wonderful. Now I'm going to have time to look at all of your comments and see who is here today. It's beautiful. And sending you lots of love and solstice greetings, and may the light return, and we have a beautiful year this coming year with new administration who much more inclusive and compassionate and care about the earth and climate change, and maybe we can turn this around. It's been a pretty dark time, And maybe the solstice is the time of that turning into something new and expansive with air, with Jupiter and Saturn. Okay, let's do a little ending meditation. And gather up all the positive energy that we accumulated here today. And we'll offer that out to all beings everywhere as we mark this turning point on our earth, in our sky. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Lots of love to you. Lots of love. See you on New Year's? Not before.